You don't actually blow accounts because you take bad trades. You blow accounts because you stop checking yourself when it matters most. There's a point in every session where your awareness either stays online or quietly hands control over. Most traders don't notice that handoff. They think they're still making decisions. They're not. They're following momentum inside their own thinking. It starts small. You glance at the chart and feel a sense of familiarity. Not confidence, familiarity. I've seen this before. I know how this usually plays out. That thought feels harmless. It's not. Because the moment familiarity shows up, curiosity disappears. And curiosity is what keeps you honest. Without it, you stop asking questions. You stop checking alignment. You stop validating conditions. You stop noticing what's actually different this time. You start trading memory instead of information. That's when drift begins. Drift doesn't feel like recklessness. It feels smooth, efficient, experienced. That's why it's dangerous. Because nothing inside you is screaming, "This is wrong." Everything feels fine until it isn't. Watch what happens internally right before the trade. Your thoughts speed up, your patience shrinks, your standards soften. Not dramatically, just enough to make action feel justified. You don't say, "I'm breaking my rules." You say, "I don't need all of them right now." That sentence has cost more money than bad strategies ever will. Because rules don't protect you when you treat them like suggestions. Protection only exists when standards are non negotiable. Here's the part most traders miss: the negotiation doesn't start with the rule, it starts with identity, with the quiet question, what kind of trader am I right now? If the answer is the one who knows better, you relax. If the answer is the one who needs to prove something, you rush. Either way, the trade gets distorted, not by the market, by the internal frame you're operating from. That frame decides whether you wait or force, whether you check or assume, whether you stay aligned or slide into justification. And once justification starts, results are already secondary, because the real decision has already been made. You decided comfort matters more than clarity. You decided certainty matters more than process. You decided this moment doesn't require honesty. That decision doesn't feel big, it feels practical. That's the lie. Practicality without awareness is just avoidance with better language, and the market charges interest on every moment you avoid the truth. This is why free content can help you recognize these moments, but it can't stay with you when pressure actually hits. Awareness is a spark, transformation is a process, and until the process changes, the pattern keeps returning. Once you start watching this moment, the moment familiarity replaces curiosity, your trading begins to change, not all at once, but permanently, because you finally know where things actually go wrong. And that's where this goes next. Once familiarity replaces curiosity, your edge starts eroding before you even notice it, because curiosity keeps you present. It forces you to ask what's actually happening right now instead of what usually happens in situations that look similar. Familiarity does the opposite. It shortcuts observation. It replaces attention with memory. It convinces you the present moment doesn't need respect. That's when you stop trading the chart and start trading a story built from past wins, past losses, past patterns you think you understand. The problem is the market doesn't repeat stories. It only repeats structure under different conditions. And when you assume sameness, you miss the differences that actually matter. This is why traders drift even when nothing goes wrong. They didn't panic. They didn't revenge trade. They didn't break rules aggressively. They just stopped paying full attention. They let experience replace awareness. That swap feels earned, deserved, logical. I've been doing this long enough. I don't need to double check everything. I know what this is. Those thoughts feel efficient. They're not. They're expensive. Because the market rewards presence, not seniority. It rewards accuracy, not assumptions. And the moment you assume, you introduce blind spots. Blind spots don't announce themselves. They quietly distort sizing, they loosen stops, they soften entries, they justify earlier action. All while you feel calm. That's the danger. Calm without curiosity isn't mastery, it's disengagement. This is why so many traders say, I don't know what happened. I was doing everything right. They were doing everything familiar, not everything required. There's a difference. Required effort adapts to the moment. Familiar effort repeats past behavior. Only one of those works in a probabilistic environment. The market doesn't care what worked for you before. It only cares whether your decision fits this context, and context demands attention. That's why your best trades often feel slower. You're watching more, checking more, letting things develop instead of jumping to conclusions. Your worst trades feel faster, not rushed, compressed. Thoughts collapse, options narrow, action feels obvious. That obviousness is the warning sign, because real clarity doesn't eliminate options, it evaluates them. Familiarity eliminates options. It says, we've already done this. And that sentence is where many traders quietly give their edge away. If you start tracking anything, track this. The moment you stop asking, what am I seeing, and start saying, I already know, that shift predicts behavior better than any indicator ever will, because behavior follows identity. And in that moment, your identity quietly changes. From observer to executor, from reader to actor, from trader to participant in your own assumptions. Once you see that, you can't ignore it. You start catching the drift earlier, before the trade, before the justification, before the loss. And that awareness creates a different kind of patience. Not passive, not hesitant, deliberate. The kind that keeps curiosity alive even when familiarity tries to take over. That's the difference between experience that compounds and experience that stagnates. And once you recognize that difference, your sessions stop feeling random. They start feeling honest, which is exactly where real consistency begins. You start to notice something else once curiosity comes back online. The market feels slower, not because price is moving less, but because you are no longer rushing to interpret it. You're not trying to be early. You're not trying to be right. You're not trying to prove anything to yourself. You're just reading what's there. And reading takes patience. This is the part most traders misunderstand. They think patience means doing nothing. It doesn't. Patience means staying engaged without forcing resolution. It means letting uncertainty exist without trying to collapse it into certainty just to feel better. That's a completely different skill. Once you build it, everything downstream changes. Your sizing stabilizes, your entries clean up, your exits stop feeling rushed. Not because you memorized rules harder, but because your internal state is no longer negotiating with discomfort. You're not asking, how do I get rid of this feeling? You're asking, what is the market actually doing right now? That shift sounds small. It isn't. It moves you out of reaction and back into observation. And observation is where edge lives. This is why experienced traders who stay consistent don't feel dramatic. They're not intense. They're not hyped. They're not constantly emotional. They're calm because they're present. They don't rush certainty. They don't shortcut context. They don't confuse familiarity with understanding. They let the moment reveal itself. That's what keeps them aligned. Once you operate this way, you stop asking, how do I stop making mistakes? You start asking, what am I trying to avoid feeling right now? That question changes behavior before behavior ever shows up, because avoidance is the real driver behind most bad decisions. Avoidance of waiting, avoidance of uncertainty, avoidance of not knowing. When you stop avoiding those things, they lose their power. They don't disappear, they just stop controlling you. And when they stop controlling you, your process finally does its job. not because it's perfect, but because you're no longer undermining it in quiet moments you used to miss. This is where trading stops feeling fragile. You're no longer one emotional moment away from breaking alignment. You're no longer relying on motivation to stay consistent. You're grounded because your identity isn't shifting every time the market tests your patience. You know who you are before you enter the session. You know what you're here to do. And more importantly, you know what you're not here to do. You're not here to relieve pressure. You're not here to chase familiarity. You're not here to trade stories. You're here to observe, to wait, to act only when alignment is real. Once that clicks, the market doesn't feel personal anymore. It feels honest, and honesty is where consistency lives.